they come to trial. And I'm going to hold them accountable. Have done it, going to continue to do it.
All right, Mr. Pettaway, I'm sorry.
All right. Well, no, what I was going to explain is that, look, it's about understanding, knowing who the people are and getting a good understanding of them when you're dealing with them. And that's why it's important to understand who is before you and get as much information about them as you can. Because you're not just gonna let all these people keep repeating do things. And that's a problem we've been having. We've had too many repeat people. That's why I want to try to get a better understanding of who the person is and what the situation is up front. So we have a better way to try to stop them from being a repeat person. Because people who just keep repeating crimes, that person has made his or her choice. And that person don't want to be with society. You got to deal with that person very harshly. But people who need a chance, that's why you have to understand who to give a chance to and who not to give a chance to. It's understanding. Now, when I talk about less fortunate, see, you have victims not just in crimes, in criminal cases, you have civil victims. And so you want to be sure that they get the right amount of, like if you find in their favor, you got to be sure to get the right amount of damage to sustain what happened. Because too often, if an award is given, it's not enough to make somebody whole. It's too low. See, there's money to be given out in court, but it gets to be too low, and that's a complaint folk have. So all of those issues wrap that up, and so that's why I say have the right understanding to be sure you are covering what you need to cover. And see, and as I say, Judge said he's been there 18 years, and people have coming back and back and back. Well, I want to try to deal with those folk the first time. So if they do come back, I don't want them to be a 6-time repeater. If they get through 1 or 2 times, that might be it, because we have to deal with that.
Okay, so basically you guys are saying the same thing.
I'd like to follow up.
Okay, go ahead,
I'd like
Gene.
to follow up.
Okay.
Attorney Pettaway, what appears to me is that you just said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you would like to administer the law to the respective person and what kind of problems they have had in their life in the past once you get to understand them.
Right.
Rather than go strictly by the law that says minimum sentence, say for instance, robbery is 3 years. No. Am I getting you wrong in that?
Yeah, a little bit. You were right at first, but the other part is that you're going to do it within the confines of the law. See, the law gives you minimum and maximum ranges to deal with people. Well, and so within that, you figure out who may be best suited for the low end, who may be best suited for the high end.
So how will you do that without putting yourself in jeopardy of not being able to judge effectively? Because if you're dealing with the criminal, if you're dealing with the criminal and you're trying to figure out what his mother did wrong or what his daddy did wrong or what the preacher didn't do, that means you're too much on a personal level with that criminal.
That's part of judging.
No, I'm not going.
Okay.
I don't think that I should be able to call or talk to a judge before my lawyer deals with my case about my personal issues.
That's not what we're talking about, talking to a judge beforehand. We're talking about in court.
How would you find all this out in the matter of your 15 minutes that you got? Because time's so short, you got to stagger all these people. How can you do all of that?
Listen to me. See, you're twisting that. Oh. See, by handling a lot of preliminary stuff, getting it done ahead of time or at another time, I have more time to listen, and I want to get more information and testimony about who people are. I want more background information to see who, so I can understand better. You see, that's where that comes from.
So,
and that will work. See, they do that. I've seen that done in other courts and in other places where they try to get a little more information on that and deal with that. Okay. And so it will help.
Okay, we have a caller. Do we have a caller? Hello, caller. You're live on the Democratic Primary Forum. Hello.
Hello.
I guess the caller decided that they didn't want to speak. So I'm going to get back to the line of questioning. I think we have to be very careful with personal involvement in cases. And I see what you're saying where, okay, young man, why did you rob the bank? Oh, young man, why did you rob the bank 2 times? Oh, why did you rob the bank 3 times? What happened? At this point in the judge, you're not a juvenile court judge. These people, 9 times out of 10 that you'll be judging, have been through the juvenile court system. Their records are probably sealed and locked for the most part.
Well, you can't always assume that.
I said most people. I didn't say all. I cleared it out. So, and that's been the case. A lot of the young men who's been committing these violent crimes have been juvenile offenders that we smacked on the hands and let out and said, well, we're going to give you a chance, which is good. Because as juveniles, they should be given every opportunity to get their lives in order. But once they get to your court, they're grown men and women. And they know the difference between right and wrong.
And then they may not need a chance.
They might not need a chance.
They may have already had it. So that's why I say you have to understand better.
Okay. So I just wanted to be clear on that statement, helping the less fortunate, because you can get a little fuzzy. That gets with, I guess they call it fuzzy math. I guess that would be fuzzy for me. I want to ask a question. I'm going to ask this hypothetically. This is a personal situation for me that I just wanted to ask. If someone came to your court and perjured, for instance, political campaigns, people out here campaigning, and someone said, so-and-so did this to me, and you have no evidence to prove it, and you say something about perjury. That's why I'm asking this question. What would you do with that once you find out that the person perjured the court or perjured the police document or whatever it was to the court to make the allegation against the individual that they're trying to sue? And this is probably not a judicial court subject, but it's probably more of a municipal court thing. And I know you haven't sat as a judge before, but just a question about perjury.
Okay, well, you kind of lost me there, but the answer about the perjury issue, and of course,
if someone lies on a legal document,
I can't necessarily get and say, well, we're going to do this and do that. But what you're talking about doing, I'm going to keep bringing attention to perjury issues and keep referring those to the district attorney to look into if prosecution is warranted, because you see, you have to have the truth. See, as a judge, I was not there. The jury, they were not there. You got to rely on what the people tell you, and hopefully they're telling you the truth on oath. But when you find out somebody has committed something that's wrong and they really perjured themselves, that really need to be dealt with, because I've seen too many people want to get up there and I just say anything, not understanding there's a consequence for that. So I want to keep referring those, and also and depend on the situation now on how it may happen. If it's something that's happened as a direct contemptible matter, then of course you can use contempt power to deal with. But you want to keep referring those and let people know that, hey, perjury is something that's going to be looked into, and it's not going to be tolerated.
All right, we got a couple of more minutes left, and we're going to let you respond, and then after that, we're going to give you guys each a minute or two. We have another phone call. Caller, you're live on air. Hello. Caller, don't worry about the delay. You're going to hear the delay. You just ask your questions. We're going to hear you.
Yes, this is towards Mr. Collins, and I was wondering how his experience will be able to fulfill the shoes of a judge or incumbent who's been on the bench for 18 years, and why he feels qualified, to earn a vote from me.
Mr. Pettaway.
Yeah, sure. Well,
thank you, caller.
My experience is working with people, and working with people like you and whoever else, and listening to you. I do not want to get out of touch with the people, and I think that's really important. And of course, that comes from being able to have that great understanding, because you don't want to just look at a file as a file or a piece of paper as a piece of paper, but that order affects somebody, and that's something I understand. And so my experience and all this time I've had working with people helps me to understand that I'm going to always be cognizant of that when we make rulings, and knowing that it's going to affect somebody one way or the other.
Okay.
And so that's very important.
Let me ask you a question before we wrap up, because we're going to go into commercial break in a second. Question, this is something that's another personal question. Selma High Early College. My son attends Selma High Early College. You sit as a chairman. There's been a lot of conflict in that organization, whereas the grant that was written, I guess early college chairperson in the committee advisory board was not aware of the particulars of the grant. The program is failing. A lot of students, your children, have graduated out of early college. Am I correct, Mr. Pettaway?
I had one child, but
at one time, but I'm
hold
going to ask
on.
my
The
question.
program is not failing, but go on.
It's been threatened to be closed, according to the recent articles out about early college. And you, sitting as the chairman of the advisory board, what role have you played between the school board, the parents, the advisory board, and the early college administration and Wallace Community College? And we do have another caller. Caller, we'll take you first. Hello, caller.
Hello, are you there, caller?
Okay, Mr. Pettaway, you can go ahead and answer the question.
Well, sure. Well, I've always served as a facilitator, and sometimes when different things come up, it's best to try to let them resolve themselves. I think the critical issue with the early college high school, and I call it high school, is that the funding issue that's going on. Of course, Grant, you're probably talking about a grant that Wallace College had gotten, and of course they had gotten approval for, but then was suddenly told that it was not going to be funded when it came time to fund it, and it was just a big communication lag between the college and the superintendent's office on how that worked and managed. But what we're doing now, we're looking at ways to raise funds and our own funds to help with that. And we had different people give certain commitments, and we're trying to work out that funding issue, because that's what it boils down, a funding issue.
I think revenue has caught all departments everywhere kind of short.
Well, yeah, and don't get me wrong, I can understand the state saying, well, we don't have the funds, but they already gave a commitment. And so they should have.
The advisory board
they should have kept their commitment and say, well, next year we can't fund you.
Well,
that'd have been a different issue. Then we would have time to raise money.
Right. Okay. So the advisory board's job is to advise Wallace Community College and the Selma City School Board on how to work together to make sure the funds come in. Am I correct?
Well, not just funds, but also to try to stay in touch with other early college high schools and how to keep the early college high school going.
Okay. We have another question. Mr. Heisel?
Yeah,